Let's do this, man. Whisper Nation, what is up? Yeah,
I don't.
Bed.
Hey,
That
I think
wasn't
we do this. Oh, yeah.
What the fuck?
Hey,
God,
hey. Oh,
The poppers.
the poppers ain't popping up in here, so we just have to make
Johnny's
it
got
pop
his
on our own.
Johnny's got his pop EDM music playing now.
hey, they put
Hey.
this
Yeah,
overlay
word.
music in here. Austin,
When
they
the
heard
pop
what you're-
don't pop, the fun don't stop.
That's right. The fun is not stopping, Whisper Nation. Just because the season is about to be over, Super Bowl played next weekend, doesn't mean we're stopping around here. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you're new to the channel, and welcome into the Fantasy Whisperers live stream on this Friday, February 4th. I am Big Travie. You can find me on Twitter at Big Travie PFW. You can find my boys Austin Sear, who you can find on Twitter at Austin_R_Sear, and Johnny Game Time, who you can find on Twitter at Johnny_Game Time. Austin, what's going on, man?
You
Dude,
could
that
add
intro
Twitter.
music, that was so fucking good, man.
Dude, I was gonna try to like.
Tell you were like, you're
I'm like, what is going on?
No, well,
dude?
we discovered it. We discovered it in the pre-show. We're like, oh, they have music in here now, and so I was like, hey, we should drop this. I thought,
yeah,
like,
they
it's not like
they
some
couldn't
be ready.
futuristic fitness class, and we're jumping in there, and like Travis, you're trying to like get in the flow of it going.
The
and,
inner
like,
control freak in me is screaming right now. I
I
was just like
know,
screaming,
know.
dude. I'm like, oh my God. But
off the rails.
I have to say, love being with you boys. Two of my favorite men on the entire planet. Love being with Whisper Nation. We got Professor Ron in the chat. We've got Rob Navarro saying Super Bowl season flew by.
Yeah, dude.
Ron saying he missed us. We missed you too, Ron. But we're going
God,
to
I
jump
missed you so
into
much.
today some playoff losers, what they need to do in the offseason, a little post-mortem. We're going to talk news and notes. We're going to talk some craziness rocking the NFL. We're going to talk some maybe projected free agents, some QBs on the move. But first of all, guys, I want to ask, the Winter Olympics just got underway. The opening ceremonies are tonight. Do you guys have a favorite Olympic sport? Like, I'm going to keep it to winter because I personally love summer games more, but I want to ask you guys if you have a favorite winter game. Or Austin, what do you think?
bro, dude, anything that soaks the ice in blood, man, I am so about it. You know what I mean? I mean, they've got those blades.
Blood. What is?
We got the
this?
skeleton. We've got bobsledding. We got hockey, man.
you were gonna talk
Dangerous ass
dude.
games, dude.
Hey, bobsledding is no joke, dude.
We
That's
got
serious
the
stuff.
high jump. What's it called? The long jump in skiing.
Oh, yeah.
What's the official
slalom.
name?
Oh, dude.
The
Oh my
winter,
gosh.
the Winter
Hey.
Olympics was the X Games before we had it.
That's
Oh
true.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
Just
Dude,
like
that, I
flat
forgot
out.
about that like super long ski where they have a Wii game like that where you stand
Bro,
on that
Ronald,
board.
Weed game.
Wii.
All right, Ronald's probably into that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, no, but this was a
Do
Wii
it 420 probably is too.
Yeah, what's up? What's the deal? Where you at? Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, I actually saw like a little commercial that was bringing this one up about these Winter Olympics, where it's like she was talking about the element of danger that's kind of just naturally built into so many of the games for the Winter Olympics, and it's just like, you know, downhill skiing is dangerous, snowboarding is dangerous,
They had
ice skating is dangerous.
the skiing.
Tanya Harding, what's up?
freestyle.
Feel the rhythm.
The freestyle
Feel the rhythm.
skiing down last night. And dude, first of all, the snow looked terrible. They looked like they had a bunch of rocks and shit in it. It was like, what is going on? But I guess it was fine because they were going through it. But man, they're like, bah, 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 bah. They're going like 40 miles an hour down that thing. I don't know if that's accurate. I have no idea. I loved a meme I saw this morning that just basically was like, hey, can we get a regular non-athletic person out here to do these games first so I understand how good these athletes are?
There are some fan ideas that are just, you know, nonsensical and they're fun to just throw around in a trolling fashion. And then there are some genius ideas that come out. And this to me is in the latter camp, Travie. It's like, who would not want this? And anybody who's saying this is like disrespectful to the integrity of the Olympics, like, I'd be like, this shit evolves just like the world does.
You know what
And
it
how
reminds-
amazing would that be? So
Reminds
good.
me of is like when
Why
they
not?
have the Masters and then they have the kids go out and play with their dad or whatever, like around, like it's like before.
Oh yeah.
Before, you know, it's
Unless
like that.
you're-
It's kind of like that. Do it 420. There
Yeah.
he is. He was in here.
Unless you're Tiger Woods' kid, and then you.
Oh,
just
that
fall
kid's
out.
gonna. Yeah, that's been a lot of fun watching him kind of
Yeah.
develop here too.
But,
we're talking about
but the
players'
one
kids.
you're
How
missing.
about
Hey.
John Daly's kid? Kicked
Hey.
the shit out of Tiger Woods and his preppy little kid, man. I love the. Did you guys see that?
Tiger
And he
Woods
crushed
is
a
just
beer.
coming back. Tiger Woods is still coming back. So that
John Daly never left.
Tiger was probably
John
yeah.
Daly.
Tiger
John Daly's
Woods was
still
on
at the club right
faulty
now,
part
dude.
of that partnership there. But the one you guys are forgetting, curling, bro. They had some on last night, which is what they need to do in order to get people hooked in.
Dangerous game of all.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
dude,
found
you're
out that
slinging
those-
a stone, dude.
I
You're
found out those
slinging-
stones are 42 pounds.
No, they're not.
42 pounds,
Yeah, dude.
slinging them right down the old pike there.
Dude, and
barely
last
Tell me
night,
that's not dangerous.
last night I saw them do what I
Hella
think is
dangerous.
not. They don't have this.
Can we
they
get a
don't-
face plant on what where they go to
Oh my God, dude.
shuffle
I-
the snow and it slip? You
I'm
know,
pretty
like,
sure they're
I
on
just
normal
wanna see one.
shoes. I was watching them
Curling
last night. I think
No,
they
they
have
curling
normal
proposal.
shoes.
Curling
they have
proposal.
special shoes.
Okay.
Curling proposal. Now I'm a few rounds away from getting my professional curling card, so excuse me on this one. But suggestion, I'm gonna go ahead and just suggest we change this sport here. Instead of the push, they got the pusher that helps guide it, like they're the sweeper.
Yeah.
As they
Yeah,
go.
they like shave the
Sweeper.
ice or something.
Right. Yeah. Like they're doing. They help steer it and they stuff. What if it's not just the same team member doing a pusher? You get an opposing team's pusher comes out at the same time, and you're like, one's trying to push.
battle them.
Yeah, and they're trying to
Okay.
mess you up, and you're trying to make it go right, but you can you can be violent with that person too.
It would be violent.
And so
But
This
you,
is
you
the-
can't.
don't touch the stone.
Austin's
Don't touch the
coming
stone.
back. Austin's
The whole
Austin's
purpose
coming
is-
back to blood on the ice. That's what Austin's just always coming back to.
Give the
blood on
people
the
what they
ice.
want.
He wants to go back to the Roman games. That's the
A
one.
song of fire and ice, or a song of blood and ice is what Austin wants.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back in Whisper Nation. We're going to talk today playoff losers, what we think their ideal offseason could look like, what we want from a fantasy football perspective. We're excited to get into that. And in the coming weeks, we'll be talking dynasty propositions for you guys out there playing the dynasty game. We'll be getting back into mock drafts and all that special stuff here. But make sure if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe on your way in. Help us grow the channel as we continue to push through the offseason here. We are going to take a huge dive into the Super Bowl next Friday. So we're excited to do that when we're on the Friday of the game. But today we wanted to take a look at the losers. Nobody remembers the losers, right? Nobody talks about the losers. We wanted to talk about them, get real, put the L on your forehead and
Most
talk a little
teams
bit
are
about
losers.
Yeah. 31 of them, in fact,
31,
lose. Only one will win. So we got to talk a little bit about that. But before that, guys, we got some big news and notes. Maybe the biggest, I guess, kind of got trumped here, but one of what was supposed to be the biggest headline of the week is Tom Brady actually officially announced his retirement. Johnny, I'll kick it to you first. Do you have a specific Tom Brady memory, maybe fantasy related, maybe not? One of your most remarkable things, Tom Brady wise.
I suffered a lot of heartbreak from Tom Brady because of the teams that he beat in the Super Bowl. I rooted for him near the latter part of his career. So that was exciting. But I would say the ultimate memory would have to be that year when he just went absolutely bananas. And
Randy Moss?
Yeah, with Randy Moss. That was just so fun to watch. I don't know if we're going to have, just because of how football it, maybe, I think there might be a possibility that Joe Burrow and Chase could end up being that next, because they both would want it that much, but I don't know if it'll ever be quite what Randy Moss and Tom Brady were that year. So I'd have to, and I didn't have them in fantasy that year, unfortunately, which would have been even more electric. But yeah, that was probably my most memorable Tom Brady memory.
Dude, I gotta
Austin,
go
I know you got a good one.
I got a good one. And before actually, I'll just jump right into that one. I've said this story. It's probably my greatest fantasy football win in terms of an anxiety and excitement perspective. But it was the Monday night game between the Falcons of Atlanta and the Patriots of New England. And they had a whole bunch of series of events that needed to go hand in hand for the ultimate situation to unfold. It was like the Falcons needed to not go for the field goal and go for it on fourth down, try to go for the win, avoid the tie, not get it though, which is all happened. And then the Patriots are getting the ball with 45 seconds left They're winning. They've won the game. The Falcons have one timeout. I am losing my fantasy matchup by 0.16 points. Nick Thomas has Tom Brady as his starting quarterback. 45 seconds on the clock. He takes no. It was even better than that because he had less than the play clock. So it's like 35 seconds were on the clock. He takes one knee, which minuses 0.1. So now my lead, my disparity shrinks from 0.16 to 0.06. Nick is now winning. And they take a knee. There's less than 40 seconds on the clock. They can just let it run out and the game is over. And the Patriots win, the Falcons lose, we all go home, Nick wins his game. But the sake of competitive advantage, Dan Quinn hits the timeout because you never know what could happen, right? Maybe Brady fumbles on the kneel down. Maybe something wild goes on like that. So we're going to play to win, calls the timeout. Tom Brady takes one more knee. That's minus 0.1. I win by 0.04 on two Tom Brady kneel downs against Nick Thomas on Monday night, last game of the week. That was incredible. And Travis, the other memory I got to throw out from Tom Brady from our League of Record, Tolton drafting 12 years ago, Casey Downs drafted Tom Brady number 1. He was the first player ever drafted in our League of Record.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's great.
We all thought it was Ricky Williams for a while, but Ricky went number 2.
No, Ricky Williams went like number 7 or 8 or 9. He was just in the first round.
He was in the first round.
It was J-Bone's first pick.
So really, here's the deal. This will be the first time in our League of Record that we will have not played with Tom Brady on somebody's roster. So that's an interesting one. Although I think, did he get injured that year he tore his ACL? Was that in the preseason?
When Matt Castle came in?
No. That was
like the caveat. Yeah, the Matt Castle season.
I mean, he played that season.
I thought he might have played the first or second game too. Yeah. Well, either way, I'm
pretty sure that was the first year we started. And Casey's first pick was Tom Brady, and he went down immediately.
I don't know.
We'll have to look into that. We need to.
Stat
but I think that. Yeah, stat that you won't.
Didn't.
Yeah, so Tom Brady, just kudos to the GOAT. Obviously, he's riding off into the sunset. Maybe not the way he wanted with Schefter and Darlington kind of getting out there and saying it before him, but
Schefter just loves to talk, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sure does, man.
He got a taste of it. He got a
he just got a taste of glory, and now he's going after it. But
I just want to say, I want to get really quick on the Schefter thing. I know he still has been right for the most part, but I don't feel like he's making people happy. And I feel like he's going to lose some of his leads if he keeps pissing off the wrong people.
Yeah, it's crazy because now he's with the mothership, Now he's been with ESPN for a little while now, and I feel like he's just very comfortable and he doesn't need to do that dirty work of getting the sources, retaining them, doing all that journalistic stuff you got to do. And man, it's just if we have sensationalist media and you got to be first and report it out there, it's even worse in the sports industry. It feels like it's even crazier in the sports industry, obviously, because that news is so time sensitive.
But if you ain't first, you're last, dude.
Yeah, that's it. And it's crazy. I wonder how it goes with the guys he shares sources with, because this was a broken story by him and Jeff Darlington. So that's the funny thing is sources tell me and Jeff Darlington this.
I mean, he's an institution now too, he's
I think what ends up,
this young reporter comes out to try and break the story, and he's like, "Yeah, hold on a second, young
yeah,
guy.
that's exactly what
he's like. You're gonna report this with me."
Ian Rappaport did the same thing earlier when he got something reported at the same time. And so this other reporter messaged him, was like, "Hey, I'm getting this information I'm about to tweet out." And he's like, "Hold on just a second." And then literally tweets it out and was like, per, so-and-so who had just messaged him and my sources, we're reporting this. And it's like, dude, you just took it from him.
I love it. It's so cutthroat. We got Ronald coming in here saying he missed the first 4 of Deflategate. Ronald says, coming in here.
You come back and make up for those games, though.
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah. We went scorched earth there. But speaking of controversy, Austin, Johnny, we have a huge lawsuit that came out with Brian Flores suing the NFL in a civil action lawsuit, naming 3 teams. The Broncos is one that he alleges that John Elway and the team president show up drunk to his interview, not taking him seriously there. Remember, this is the key factor here is that, Flores is saying this is racial, like, but black coaches are not getting hired enough. The Rooney Rule is not working. People are not taking them seriously. And so that's the basis of this. He alleges that the owner of the Dolphins paid him $100,000 per loss, or wanted to pay him $100,000 per loss, which he denied. He denied that bribe, or I guess you could say there. And then he also alleges that the Giants never took him seriously. He has texts from Bill Belichick, basically, that Bill thinks he's texting the other Brian Daboll from the Bills and says, "Congratulations, you got the job." And Brian Flores is like, "Coach, I don't interview till Thursday." So it looks like the Bills, or the Giants had their guy. So, I mean, Austin, I'll start with you. Any initial thoughts here on this lawsuit? This could have huge ramifications towards the NFL. At least I think when I look at it, the Stephen Ross factor, if they can prove that he paid or wanted to pay to lose games here, that could be a huge one.
So I'm just going to go top level 30,000 foot on this. A lot of details are going to be coming out, but I don't think that the details that are going to come out are going to be able to be honestly considered free of distraction in the way that details of this type of situation would honestly be deserving to be looked at if we wanted to actually make change. I don't think that the people who would be responsible for delivering said change have any interest in that. It's like Starbucks Democrats here on this side. Like, we're going to paint up our frappuccinos with as much progressive messaging, support the underdog, all of that good stuff. But then we are going to fight unionization like our lives depend on it. And that's the way I see the NFL and all of these subsequent teams going about this situation. And I think it's one of these cases when you learn more about Brian Flores' history and what he's gone through. And I mean, the fact that you win the Super Bowl as a Patriots, essentially their defensive coordinator, but you were never awarded that title, I think it'd be hard to feel like you didn't get the shit end of the stick more times than not. It's like you're an NFL coach, you're getting Super Bowl rings, you have status and cool stuff when you go home to your communities and they're like, wow, he's, all this stuff. But it's like, you should be the defensive coordinator and Belichick's not giving you that title. And there's other instances of similar types of outcomes in Brian Flores' career that stack up. And you look at this whole thing, and you can't separate art from the context. So I know we could go through each one of these accusations and say, well, there's a reason why, there's a reason why, there's a reason why, there's a reason why. But when you stitch all of these reasons why together, you're going to tell me there's not a real trend? You're going to tell me there's not an actual current that we could say is somewhat applicable to other people in similar positions? And I would be hard pressed to say that the truth would say something to the contrary of that. But the individual facts, as we stack them up, it doesn't sound like they're going to be substantial enough to bring about change. I think that Brian Flores is probably going to end up being blackballed and without a lot of advantages on his side that he gets personally. But I don't think he's honestly doing this for himself either. I think he's trying to turn the next chapter on this larger NFL racial dynamic systemic page. And I think that it will eventually help encourage that direction. But I don't think, like when you clean out your closet, it gets messier before it gets cleaner.
Yeah.
I think the closet is still getting messier.
You got to fix something in the game, and then you take it apart, and you basically have it all on the floor. You're like, oh, what did I do this for?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we're getting it messier before we actually get it cleaner. And I think that's going to be the sacrifice Brian Flores ends up making on this one. You start to hear that too. It doesn't sound like the details in his class action lawsuit are going to be enough to move it to the next process, which is when you also start to now see the Broncos and the Giants starting to come out on the offense on this. Yeah. First time we've seen any offense out of these teams in a couple of seasons.
Boom. Got him there. Johnny, do you have an initial reaction from this? Just kind of anything, echoing there what Austin was saying, or what your thoughts are on the Brian Flores situation?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting too that he's still in the running, or in theory, as a
front runner, apparently.
Yeah, Houston and then also the Saints position. And
I would love him to get hired by Houston in the middle of this.
Right. Yeah, I know. It'd be
such a Houston move.
And
do it, Houston.
We'll see
be that team.
What ends up happening. I mean, there is also other things that he might not have the case potentially that they thought he might have. I don't know. It's very complicated for sure, but there really has to be some kind of change. And the NFL.
I thought Sam Acho said it really good on count. Yeah, do it 420. The NFL is due for a huge cleanup. There is no place for racism in sports. Absolutely. Samuel Acho was on Colin Cowherd saying, like, everybody's got that group text with their friends, and they remove that one annoying person in the group text, and they have the same identical group text. They just don't have that person in it. I was like, man, this is some messed up stuff, Sam. I was thinking, but he's talking about how, black coaches, black players in the NFL know that there's some sort of white group text going on. They just can't prove it. And Bill Belichick basically exposed that with that text message. So I'd like to see how this comes out. The Stephen Ross thing, I think, is the biggest meat on the bone accusation. And whether or not that aligns really well with the case or not, I think if the NFL investigates and find out, and who knows? I mean, it's that they're investigating themselves, but Stephen Ross paying his coach to lose games is a big one off the books.
I don't.
You are muted, brother.
I don't know how he doesn't end up losing. Like, he should have to give up ownership if
I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, Pete Rose has been outlawed from baseball still,
right.
And he was at least betting that they were going to win, not that they were going to lose.
Right.
Like,
it's like Austin betting the unders, dude.
Right? Like,
and winning, baby. Woo! Underdog. Use the promo code TFW to get up $100 max on your first deposit. Let's go.
We'll be doing some for the Super Bowl for sure.
No, you know what I wanted to bring in here. I totally forgot. So let's just move on to the next point. Damn it.
Oh, okay. No worries. The final footnote on the news and notes from this week. The biggest thing is that the Vikings did not hire Jim Harbaugh after an alleged 9-hour interview where they flew him out there. And basically what I've heard from different camps is that Harbaugh was maybe interested in the NFL, and his agents and his side did a good job of pumping him up as a candidate. But the NFL never really took Harbaugh seriously. And it's about what I'm saying. What I see a lot on Twitter, what I'm seeing a lot is that he isn't the new form of collaborative coach that the NFL is looking for right now. Works a lot with their, I would say their staff. You look at who got hired, McVay's offensive coordinator out of the Rams. So I guess I don't know. It's very weird that they would fly him out there, interview him. Everybody was reporting that he was going to go to the Vikings. And the next day he told Michigan not only that he's coming back, but this won't be a problem and he'll be at Michigan for as long as they want him.
Yeah.
Austin, you got any thoughts on this? I feel like, first of all, as a Packers fan, I did not want him going to the Vikings.
Me neither, dude.
They are a threat to me as far as talent-wise, and if they get the right coach in there that activates them, I think they could be really good. So I like that we avoided him there.
Why don't you think that the Vikings were excited? I want to comment on this one, but I wanted to know first if we have any insights of why we think that the Vikings weren't so excited to hire Jim Harbaugh.
Johnny, I think that he's on that.
Well, according to some like sources, they were saying that because Harbaugh's he's like 60 or around there, and he's kind of set in his ways, and like Travis kind of alluded, like football is going in a different direction as far as like the flashiness, like the upbeat tempos. That's why you're seeing a lot of these coaching tree from like Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, these kind of systems, because they work really well. And so you also, like Travis was also saying, need a guy that's more of kind of like this new age kind of leader kind of thing, where it is more of like, hey, you're very talented at what you do. I'm the head coach and I call plays or whatnot. But we're all in this together. It's that team mentality over the kind of dictatorship part.
Well, you got to look at, yeah, I'm with you, Johnny. You got to look at what Minnesota just got rid of in Zimmer. Mike Zimmer was an old school style coach defense first. You'd hear reports every time that they would throw more than they ran. He almost Pete Carrolled it. He said, we got to run the ball more. We got to come in here and cap the ceiling, so to speak. So I imagine Harbaugh was 41, 19, and 1 in the NFL. He went to several NFC championships. He went to a Super Bowl and lost to his brother. Like, he was a good head coach in the NFL. Had issues with Balky, who now is the GM over at in the Jaguars. The reason why Byron Leftwich wouldn't take that job because Balky was the GM that was hired over there. So again, this is the situation where he was good. He was a talent. You would think that he would have a fit here, but I think there's a situation where he reminded him maybe too much of Zimmer, where he was going to come in, be an old head, coach them up, and not hit the ceiling that they wanted. And I guess they wanted, part of this Sean McVay tree. I mean, look at the Sean McVay tree right now. I mean, we have Matt LaFleur, we have Zach Taylor, we have and now we're gonna.
It all goes back. Kyle Shanahan.
Oh yeah, Shanahan's.
It goes back. What's kind of wild? It goes back
on the tree. That's what I'm saying. He's not part of McVay's tree. McVay is technically
part of the Shanahan tree.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's like that whole branch down.
I remember what I wanted to touch on really quick earlier. This kind of ties back to the other point in this one as well. And Sean McVay was the example that I wanted to bring up. Sean McVay to me is, I stopped short of calling him a hero, but I call him this because he is the new era of the coach, right? We're talking a lot about him. He's about to be in his second Super Bowl. The man is 35 years old, was hired at 30 years old. That's pretty wild, especially with how successful he's been, right?
Especially being 32 years old and being like, damn, what it would be like to run, like twice.
Right. It's absolutely amazing. And the way that he not only finds success, but the ways in which he delivers that success, I think is truly that of an appropriate role model in today's day and age. We talk a lot about the traditional toxicity that you find in sports, kind of like in our dad's eras of sports. It was a lot more dominant culture, a lot more toxic, I'd go so far as to say. And I really like the new energy where it's like the game has never been faster. The players have never been more skilled. What we're seeing on the field has never been done before, but there's an element of love that moves through it. And I see Sean McVay holding that spirit and perpetuating more and more of that. Something I would say that the man he replaced over there did not hold. Exactly. Yeah. And so I love this. I love this about him. And no one would say that Sean McVay doesn't deserve this. But when we go back to our earlier conversation there on Brian Flores, and if coaches are really being given a fair shake of the whole thing, Sean McVay was hired at 30, and he's like John Gruden's godson or something like that. You know what I mean? Like his dad and John Gruden's dad. And so when you talk about these like private chats and things, it's actually a very, very small world. And of course, Sean McVay is amazing. He's great. But the pool that we're pulling from is a very exclusive pool. And it's not like in sports, the coolest thing about sports, especially from the player side, like if you are good enough, you play on the field. But coaching is a little bit different. It's harder to define what impact you really had, which is what allows these decision makers to like go in wild directions, whether it be with Brian Flores or Hugh Jackson or whatever.
It's very much like a thankless job almost. Like you do all this flipping work and then you could be the guy that kind of falls on the sword all the time and barely gets the acknowledgement. Like if you win, I think about these dynamics we talk about, with Zach Taylor, right? We're still questioning Zach Taylor right now because of how good Joe Burrow's been. And we'll just see how that works out. So yeah, it's an interesting point to talk about,
I think Jim Harbaugh's amazing.
And it's also interesting.
I think Jim Harbaugh's great too. I thought he should have stayed with San Francisco. I didn't understand why he was ever
another GM issue.
GM issue again. And now we're seeing him have a hard time. And maybe that's why he told Michigan on his way back. He said, look, I'm staying until you guys tell me you don't want me anymore. He's probably just so burned now for coming back into the pool a little bit, and these teams won't give him a second thought. I don't know how you get a guy for 9 hours and then tell him no.
Well, I think that might be it. Is they were probably saying, hey, talking about that pool, like it's not like owners don't text each other, so I'm sure they all know, and they're like, hey, this is where the NFL is kind of going, and they probably were like, hey, you can't coach that style. This is what we're kind of looking for. Can you be, and it was probably breaking it down to him. And he can't do that. And so they're just basically like, hey, listen, this is what teams are looking for nowadays. If you can't conform to that, then you're probably not going to have a good shot at getting a head coaching position, because I'm telling you, as someone who's texting other ones looking for coaches. And he was just like, you know what, then I'll just go to Michigan. I know that they'll have me for as long as because they love him there. And so I don't know. It's going to be wild.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into a lot of what Minnesota is capable of doing in the offseason and all these different, storylines that work on that. And we're going to get into the 12 losers of the playoffs. But first, guys, I wanted to rapid fire through some of the unrestricted free agents for the 2022 offseason because free agency is right around the corner. So before we get into that, so this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to go by position, and I'll just kind of bop this between the two of you, and you guys can tell me who you think is the biggest name out of this pool. So, we're going to twist it. And smack it and
pull it.
The QBs.
Something a good Friday night, Travie.
Pull it. Yeah. Exactly. Twist it, flick it,
Pop lick it, put it in your mouth, Travis.
All right, it's the Whisperers After
Oh.
Dark. Johnny leaves for 2 weeks, and this is the craziness he comes back to, dude. No, it's all good. Quarterbacks. We're going to talk quarterbacks. I got to get back on track here. And the free agents that are ahead, it's not a really exciting free agent class. We'll get into the guys that we think could change teams via trade. But Austin, I'll ask you here. We got Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, Ryan Fitzmagic, Cam Newton, Marcus Mariota, Mitch Trubisky. Of these guys, is there a guy that's standing out to you fantasy football wise that you'd be interested in moving teams or staying with the team they're at or anything else?
From the fantasy perspective, I think it's Jameis Winston brings that ceiling because he doesn't give a poop. He'll just throw it, and he'll get you touchdowns. He'll get you interceptions. He'll probably be playing from behind a lot of the times, which is kind of good for your fantasy quarterback. So from that perspective, I think Jameis Winston, if he landed in a place that had weapons and a situation where they could go downfield, he has the most viability to me. Cam Newton to me is done. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I love him to death, but if he could come in and he was healthy and it was in the right situation, great. But that's what we thought we were going to have in Washington this last year, and we didn't. And then Marcus Mariota, I'm still hoping that he gets like a full shake outside of Tennessee, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, like that one's more like you root for the player. I was going to say Marcus Mariota, but you're more rooting for like his story than you are a fantasy outlook. I don't know that he's going to support a huge supporting cast there. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on the Jameis Winston. He's the guy you could see elevate people around him if he can get going again, maybe. On the running back side, we have Chase Edmonds, James Conner. So both the Arizona Cardinals running backs are free agents. Cordarrelle Patterson, Melvin Gordon, Sony Michel, James White, Rashad Penny. All three of the Buccaneers backs, Gio Bernard, Leo Fournette, Rojo. We've got Donta Foreman from the Titans and J.D. McKissick from Washington. So, Johnny, I'll ask you on the running back side of thing, is there a name or two here that you're really pumped to see get into free agency and maybe a potential destination?
I mean, obviously, I'm interested in seeing where the Cardinals running backs land. Chase Edmonds should be re-signing. I know that is, according to some sources here in Arizona, that is a high priority for him. They are definitely looking to bring him back, as well as James Conner under the right amount, I guess, is what the sources are saying. So they would like to bring James Conner back, but we'll see what the market, decides with him. And then, of course, I got to go with my guy, dude. Rashad Penny, baby. Oh, is he gonna? Where is he going? Did he do enough to resurrect his career, and all of a sudden show that juicy potential that I so saw and wished for at draft night?
All those years ago.
Yeah, all those years ago.
There are two guys that are these post-type sleepers in this group that I think are funny. Penny and Foreman. Not funny, but I think are interesting as guys. Donta Foreman was a huge spark guy. And then went to Houston, had a couple massive injuries, and then when Tennessee this year really showed some flashes. He looked good. So
Foreman's had moments, right?
Yeah.
That's a great point.
He looked like he had some juice. So I'd be interested to see if they give him, but I don't know how you can't talk about the fantasy typo. Cordarrelle Patterson is the biggest name here after the career year.
Glitch, dude.
After the
That's
career.
That's why you glitched it out.
Yeah, the career year he had. Austin, anybody else in there that you're, in the
Dude, this is a great list. Honestly, man, it's more of like a who's not interested. I'm J.D. McKissick is cool in the right situation, but he's still, I don't think, going to be more fantasy relevant than he was last year. Deontay Foreman, we mentioned him. Ronald Jones is kind of interesting. I'm not interested in Giovanni Bernard. I'm not interested in James White. I'm not interested. Honestly, like Chase Edmonds with the Arizona Cardinals, I could see him getting his role. Chase Edmonds is good, but I just don't see him going to another team that's not Arizona and him having enough of a substantial role to be anything you'd take in the first 9 rounds, fantasy wise. But other than that, like I think all of these running backs. I mean, we've got Pro Bowlers and James Conner on this list. We've got Melvin Gordon, who was a solid RB2, right? Like I wouldn't mind the Cardinals picking up Melvin Gordon if we lost James Conner. That could be a cool
huge year too. Like where does Conner get this next contract after all those touchdowns this year?
The Raiders don't have any money to give him.
Yeah. Penny has proven that he can't stay healthy, says Ronald, and do it 420 says, I'm with you, Ron. Sorry, Johnny.
No, I agree. But I'm hoping he sticks around the NFL to see if he can hold out. I mean, sometimes we see this with players, but no, I know I'm not really actually excited to
if we're excited about some of these running backs, I think the wide receiver list is also very juicy as well. We've got AJ Green, Christian Kirk, both of the Cardinals wide receivers there. Allen Robinson, that's a huge one from the Bears. It should be a free agent. Michael Gallup, Devontae Adams, DJ Shark, Mike Williams, huge names here. OBJ, Will Fuller, Juju, and AB, of course. We'll see what happens there. And then Chris Godwin, who got tagged last year. So a lot of shakeup could be on the horizon, especially at this wide receiver position. Austin, I'll let you start off here on some names that you think just are going to have the biggest impact in fantasy this year.
There's some really good ones here, right? I mean, Devontae Adams.
Obviously,
he's the first wide receiver we speak about, maybe outside of Cooper Kupp, but even still, maybe Devontae Adams. So obviously that is the number one. Odell Beckham is such a flashy name, and he's had the best run in his career post New York. So that's fun. He's going to get paid. Will Fuller is Will Fuller, and he will be Will Fuller this year again, too. We'll be excited. We'll say maybe he could be. Could you imagine if he did? And he probably won't. Juju Smith-Schuster's moving out of relevancy. Chris Godwin is a really interesting piece. I don't think they'll franchise tag him again, meaning he's probably gone unless they might re-sign him again. Like we'll see what Tampa Bay does, but Chris Godwin is a super stud. The one name though that really kind of jumps out to me though here, maybe I'm dumb, but Allen Robinson.
No,
it's
I like
that.
It's like he's had such an up and down career, like his 1,400-yard sophomore season over in Jacksonville, followed by disappointments, but then pops, and he seems like one of these guys who can. I like to say when a person looks washed, they're usually kind of washed, but Allen Robinson is not that dude. He's like the guy who decides to show up or not or something. I don't know what the variable that's impactful here, but he's got one. And if you can get him at a bargain level and then he ends up being a back end wide receiver one, that's to me the most interesting piece.
He really reminds me of the other Bears receivers that have left in free agency there, Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, I think he's going to be kind of like those guys where he might have a couple years left. You go get him on a team with a decent quarterback, go be the X wide receiver somewhere and get it done that way. I think he can do that. I think he still has stuff in the tank there. Johnny, we move on to tight ends here. We've got a few big names. I think it's the year of the tight end in the free agent class. And maybe we'll get hyped up on him again and overdraft him again and get hurt again by all these tight ends. But there's some good ones out there. We've got Zach Ertz, CJ Uzomah, David Njoku, Dalton Schultz, Robert Tonyan, Mo Alley Cox. Get him to a team, please, baby. Please. Mike Giuseki, Tyler Conklin, Evan Ingram, Gerald Everett, OJ Howard, Rob Gronkowski, who might be on his way to retirement there. Johnny, of these guys, is there one that's really sticking out to you? Obviously, you've got some investment in Zach Ertz with the Cardinals, but anything else there you got?
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to get Zach Ertz just because of what he might demand on the free agent market. We'll see. But I'm really interested in David Njoku.
Yes.
Where he could potentially go, because David Njoku is a straight up athlete.
Yeah.
We started to see him get more involved this past year. Again, there was such a cluster there for Browns tight ends. I don't think they're going to bring him back again, considering that they do like what they have on the roster as well. So that landing spot, imagine if Njoku gets signed by the Cowboys or something like that, that's very, very nice. So
I'd probably
Cardinals. Say, or the Cardinals. Oh my, there would have been a lot of rumors with trades before we got Ertz that we could potentially go after Njoku, and I would love to see that. But Mike Giuseki as well, because of everything that Miami is going through. And all the speculation that what could potentially happen with the coaching, like Mike Giuseki is another really talented, uber athletic tight end that's young, and I would like to see him go to a potentially dangerous team with that uses a tight end more.
It's funny.
Can I add in one thing here on David Njoku? I got so excited about that one because I think that this is honestly one of maybe the most exciting and impactful available free agents in the NFL at any position right now. Let me give you just a little bit perspective, because we've been sleeping on David Njoku now for a handful of seasons, but it's not really his fault. And I have such a core memory from fantasy football baked in, because I picked up David Njoku. It must have been 4 years ago in his second season or something like that. And he had just started to get it going. We know that tight ends usually take a couple of seasons to get it going and to really start flexing. This guy is a physical freak. He's a first round pick. He was looking decent, but just hadn't got it going. And then he did. And then he became a real tight end. And I oftentimes say this tight end's he's not your problem, but he's not a solution either. David Njoku is starting to move into that solution category, and the stat blurb on him on our fantasy platform is like, David Njoku is now a tight end 1. And I remember circling that and posting it in our League of Record thread and being like, got myself a tight end 1 here off the waivers a couple weeks ago. Love it. And then he had this horrendous arm break. Like he had this play and he broke his arm, like doing a dive, and it was weird. And then he was out. And then they brought in Austin Hooper as the highest paid tight end in the league. And then they started having all of these other tight ends. He never lost anything, but they brought in Austin Hooper. Their offense went in a different direction. We kind of stopped hearing from David Njoku, but guess what, guys? He's going into his 6th season, which means he has a lot of experience. He's 25.
Ooh. Yeah.
He's 25.
He came out really early.
Yeah. So I think, and the only thing we really heard out of him was that they wanted to trade last offseason. They wanted to get him out of there because of the reasons you're talking about. They have all these other weapons. He wants to shine. I mean, I look at this. I put CJ Uzomah on the list, not because I think he's going to be a huge free agent, because that hole could be there for the Bengals. You look at the Bengals now with this offense, they go and get a David Njoku. They go and get a Mike Giuseki. Man, I mean, they are going to, it's like they're going to continue to try and go after what, being one of the next dynasties, one of the next top tier offenses, if you will, if they're able to go get it done. So yeah, a lot of big names out there. I think Evan Ingram's another one. He hasn't stayed healthy, but an athlete, like to see him get in another role. Let's see there. I just always rooted for Evan Ingram. I like to see him get going there. But lastly, on the kind of offseason talk before we dive into these teams, we want to talk a little bit about the QBs that are under contract that could be on the move. We've got Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Carson Wentz. We've talked ad nauseum about Aaron Rodgers, so maybe we don't have to go Aaron Rodgers direction here. But Johnny, is there another names that maybe where you'd like to see them go? What's your biggest name out of here? Not Aaron Rodgers.
Well, it's kind of a duo, right? Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. I think that those are like probably the 2 quarterbacks that probably are the most likely to be on the move of any quarterbacks. Will Seattle trade Russell Wilson? It might be highly unlikely, but I do think if they are going to kind of get the most for him right now and in return and really start that rebuilding process, it could be with that. And then getting one of these secondary quarterbacks that could just run your offense in Seattle because they want to run the ball more, I think is something that's interesting. But Deshaun Watson, obviously sitting out all of last year, is most likely, and every indicator has been that they're going to kind of use that as their, leverage when he comes back and saying, hey, he sat out all of last year. That should count towards suspension if there was going to be any. Will he get traded? I just think that there's a lot of question marks. Will he stay if Brian Flores ends up going to Houston? Does he like Brian Flores? I mean, obviously, he was going to go there for Miami and be under Flores, so maybe he does want to stay after that ends up happening. I don't know. I think there's a lot there because there are some really interesting pieces in Houston.
Dude, there's so many interesting pieces with that, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, because I agree with everything that you're saying there, Johnny, and I think that we're going to have to pay attention to where the social temperature is at when a chance for Deshaun Watson to rejoin a team could be. We're getting a lot of conversation right now about more email situations coming out. We saw John Gruden exit Las Vegas after all of the emails that he had that came out that, we're throwing around words like racist, sexist. We're talking a lot about a lot of unseemly things that might require some systemic adjustments on this one. And Deshaun Watson is fallen into some of those categories too. And I would normally say in normal situations, like, we're going to kind of like chill and we'll forget about it. And then like he'll make his way back in and there he is. Now Deshaun Watson's just part of our lexicon again. But if we dig deeper into these cheerleader allegations, which is, I see more and more of this continuing to come up. If that's a top 3 story when it's time to usher Deshaun Watson back in, I think an NFL marketing team is going to have a really hard time introducing their star new quarterback if that's the backdrop.
No joke. I mean, that's the whole, I think even Stephen Ross, who seems to be this weird character in Miami, was a guy that didn't, they couldn't get enough, together to make this deal happen. So I wonder what's going to happen there with Watson. What's the league ramifications there? Russell Wilson's the maybe second most interesting one out of after Aaron Rodgers for me, to echo what Johnny's saying there. And that's because he's younger than Aaron Rodgers. He's been to more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. He's a mobile quarterback. I think that he's got a little bit more, but he's under more of a longer contract than Aaron Rodgers. So it's interesting to me because he's gone back and forth. He said that he wanted out, then he came back and reneged on that. Then he said today, or not today, but this offseason that he was going to explore his options. I'm like, your options are to play under your contract. Like, you don't really have, you could demand a trade. You have a no trade clause. So we'll see there. We'll see what happens with Wilson because their new ownership. Paul Allen passed away. It's now an ownership group with his daughter. So I don't know what she's going to do, and a lot of people don't. She's keeping a lot of close to the chest. Will it mean that Pete Carroll goes? They didn't fire him. They've kept him along. Does that mean that Russ goes? It's very interesting to see where he could end up in this one. And we've got a lot of teams, and a few of them we're going to get into about that need a quarterback here. So we'll start with the team breakdowns. It's going to go chronologically here, guys, about teams that lost in the playoffs. The first loser of the playoffs was the Las Vegas Raiders. They lost on that first Saturday of Super Wild Card weekend. Look, Austin, we know that this team had the interim coach, Rich Bisaccia, took the team to the playoffs. Gruden exited. We look at this team and we're saying there's a lot of pieces here. It's in a fun city. There's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on. They go in and they hire Josh McDaniels, kind of get this Patriots influence. Is there something you need to see out of this team that you want to see the most out of with those players they have over there?
This is such an interesting case because the team made the playoffs. Derek Carr was busting ass at the beginning of the season in such a good way. They lost Henry Ruggs, who was finally having a breakout, that former number 1 overall or first round pick. Darren Waller is a beast. He was hurt. I'm not concerned about that coming into this year. Obviously, if he's hurt again, that's something to factor in moving forward. But as of right now, I don't want to call it fluky, but it's a non-factor for me, the Darren Waller injury. Hunter Renfrow is dope, but he's a complementary piece. If he is your lead dog, I don't think your offense is going far in the playoffs. And I think that these Raiders got a little taste of the playoffs and they're ready to go further. So I want to see him get a receiver. I would love to see, we talked about Allen Robinson, Allen Robinson over there. There's just a lot of big names on that wide receiver list. I think Derek Carr is cool. I think he's good enough. I think he's above a game manager. I think he's a borderline playmaker. I think he's a smart player at a borderline playmaking position. I think he exceeds the game manager label. And I would just love to see whether it be Allen Robinson, Michael Gallup could even be cool. We've seen Derek Carr do some good work with like Nelson Aguilar types, and like a Michael Gallup. I could see him doing well with him. The Tyrell Williams, like Michael Gallup is better than both of those guys. Mike Williams, Odell Beckham. Yeah, these would all be, and I think Chris Godwin may be at the top of that list.
Yeah, Johnny, do you have any follow-up points here on the Raiders, something you want to see done for their off-season wish list here? I have some thoughts on Josh McDaniels that I'm excited to talk about, but for you, did you have anything that you want to see going on here for the Raiders?
They'll be probably looking for a speedy wide receiver on the outside. Obviously, Brian Edwards is still there. We'll see a new coaching staff. It's not their guy, but we'll see what ends up plaguing there. But I think that this means with the head coaching hire and presuming he does continue to call the plays there, which I wouldn't expect any different. I actually think this is really good news for both Waller and Hunter Renfrow. I do think Hunter Renfrow, because of how much they target the slot receiver in that offense, then I do think that he'll be a guy that I'll be looking to draft next year.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting, guys. Like, Josh McDaniel has been with the Patriots for over 10 years, or just about 10 years. So he's been their OC for about 10 years, and we're going to get into the Patriots soon. But you get Dave Ziegler, who was in the front office for the Patriots as well. He's going to be their new GM. So we're going to have a situation. What's up, skill positions? In here with the fire emoji. Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to see a situation here with the Raiders are trying to change culture with a guy who's still, did not have that luck when he had his first stop in Denver and Josh McDaniels. But I'm with you, Johnny. I think this is huge for a guy like Darren Waller. We've seen the Gronk and the Hunter Henry and the David Njoku roles in this offense. The Aaron Hernandez roles in this offense really do some big things. So if we can get a healthy Darren Waller, I think that could be huge for him next year. But I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid too fast. We were drafting him in the second round last year. It burned a lot of people.
Bro, how do you drink Kool-Aid and not drink it fast, bro?
Yeah, you have to. All that
so
sugar.
Good.
But yeah, I think they keep on to Derek Carr. Now, the interesting dynamic here is that these players loved Rich Bisaccia, who was the interim coach.
Yeah.
And they went away from that and said, no, we're going to go hire outside. We're going to hire these 2 Patriot influence players, and we're going to try and change the culture here. And really, I think the big influence Mark Davis wanted was situational coaching, doing the right thing in the situations of games that are key. So that's why they hired Josh McDaniels. We'll see what happens with the players and them coming back around. And you know, we've heard rumors a little bit maybe of Derek Carr getting moved. I think they're going to hang on to Derek Carr and kind of work this offense through him. Why not? You have something close to a franchise quarterback. You might as well try and make it work there. And I think that's kind of what they're going to do there. Moving on, the next team that lost and made their way out was the New England Patriots. In Austin, it seemed like they kind of hit on Mac Jones here. I mean, he was definitely the best rookie. Mac Jones. He was definitely the best rookie quarterback. They took him 15th overall. We saw
the best rookie season.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. He might have peaked already, and then
he might have
come in and come over him for sure. But I guess I want to say is there's going to be a lot more change than we think because McDaniels, as we talked about, 10 years leaving this team, Austin, the offense is going to change on Mac Jones right after his first year. What did you see out of the Patriots this year? What do you want to see going into next year?
So Josh McDaniels was Tim Tebow's coach back in Denver, right?
Yes.
That's correct.
And we
I think
yeah. Right. We all like to talk about the game that Tim Tebow won. Well, no, I'm not. Very much different. But Josh McDaniels set up Tim Tebow to win in that playoff game that they had against Pittsburgh. Tim Tebow was set up to succeed. I think Josh McDaniels does a really good job of that. I think he did a really good job of that with Mac Jones this year. I think Mac Jones was able to meet a lot of his potential that he brought in, maybe even exceeded a little bit because of the game plan that they had. I mean, they had a win where he had 3 pass attempts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't need to see Mac Jones do a lot because this Patriots team is balanced as we expected. And I think he was putting in a position to win. With Josh McDaniels out, I think Bill Belichick still makes that offense one where his players are put in a position to win. But I don't know if Mac Jones is anything more than a game manager right now, and I'm excited to see what he's about. I think this is another team that could use a wide receiver. I don't know if it'd really make a difference considering how they play and if they think that Mac Jones would be capable of hitting a talented wide receiver deep on and out the way that like Burrow does with Chase or whatever. But I think that they need a wide receiver. I think that the running backs are fine. I don't know if they would even do better. I think they rotate them well.
To echo that point, no wide receiver was in the top 40 in fantasy football. Their highest wide receiver in the top 40 was Kendrick Bourne at wide receiver 44. So really not a position we could even ever be confident in. We tried for a few weeks. We tried to get somebody going, Nelson Aguilar or Jacoby Myers, Johnny's boy. Johnny, anything else sticking with you on the Patriots that you want to see in a big way coming into next year?
Yeah, I want to see who this offensive coordinator is going to be for them because, that's going to be the key to really opening up this offense and seeing what other potentially, is Bourne. There were a lot of reports because Bourne was with the 49ers and people liked him with the 49ers and coming out of college. So Bourne could potentially be a guy that is a solid wide receiver for them. Now, can that offensive coordinator, whoever it will be, and honestly, it'll probably be some guy we've never heard of because that's the Bill Belichick kind of thing, is he kind of promotes within. So next year it might be a little bit hard to forecast what this offense could be like, but certainly getting maybe another wide receiver or an offensive coordinator that could really flourish this offense.
Travis, can we shout out some of the questions? We got some people coming in here. I just wanted to touch it. It's skill positions. What's good? Ronald saying he wants to mock draft and was wondering if we're going to be doing any mocks coming up here soon. Says skill positions with the drama masks. I love that.
Hey, we'll be mocking around.
Right after the Super Bowl, we'll be starting to get back into mock draft Monday. So stay tuned, like and subscribe. Skill positions. If you're new to the channel, hit us with that subscribe. We'd appreciate it. Great to have you in here. We love Whisper Nation. We love getting it going, man. But I'm with you, man. We want to see what the offensive coordinator. Maybe we'll see like Bill O'Brien come back. He's over there with helping out.
I would like
Alabama.
that.
He actually, Mac Jones, I guess, taught him the playbook, but Bill O'Brien could actually get in there and work with Mac Jones again, and of course with the Patriots again. We'll see what happens there at the offensive coordinator position. Moving on to the Eagles, who are our next loser on the list here. Look, they make the playoffs in their head coach's Nick Sirianni's first year. We saw all last offseason, the talk was about Jalen Hurts and if he's the guy or not. All he did was come out and kind of do his job for the most part, did get hurt. And people are still questioning, after the playoffs, if he's the guy. But I don't think that's anybody on this panel. I think we like what we saw out of Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I guess, Austin, my biggest question is, what do we need next to get that next step in the evolution here?
Johnny talked about offensive coordinators. I'm not saying that they need a new offensive coordinator, but they need a better game plan. They need something that's more consistent. I think that they did a great job maximizing their running backs on rosters abilities, and Boston Scott, Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, they brought in off the streets, and he did really well. So I'm not concerned about their running back room. I think that they could continue picking dudes up off the street. They do need wide receiver help. This is the best wide receiver group that we've seen the Eagles have, and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert are not exactly like people you're super stoked to be leading the way, a rookie and like a tight end that's been a backup for a long time. They're very good. I'm just saying you could use more. And I think that everybody would appreciate that, but it's not going to matter if their offensive game plan isn't one of cohesion and consistency. And we saw so much inconsistency. Let Jalen Hurts, let him cook, let him go. Johnny, you talk about it all the time of like, they'd run these kind of weird conservative game plans. Then they get down by 20 points. And then Jalen Hurts would pick up 25 fantasy points in the third or fourth quarter because he'd be playing from behind, and he can do it. He likes to throw. He needs to work on a few things, but I think the game plan is what they really need to work on, and then get some more receiving help. That could be homegrown. Rager steps it up, great. If Quintez gets it going, okay. They need that help eventually, but more than anything else, they need game plan.
Johnny, with that assessment there of the Eagles here?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by where Jalen Hurts ends up. As far I don't think he gets traded. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is, where do people see his value? Because like you talked about in the beginning of last season, they were throwing a lot more. They weren't running as much, and as a result, Hurts, finished, 2 top 5, basically only once. In the first 8 weeks, first 9 weeks did he finish outside the top 12. In most cases, he was top 10 as far as weekly quarterback finishes. But then you look at that second half of the season when they did start running the ball a lot more. You saw him finish 3 out of the 5 games that he played were outside of the top 12 finishes. So, tale of two halves, and what obviously they need to get more wide receivers that could help Bode. But I think that Hurts could end up being another value next year, and especially once again, take it into account that you might need to get another quarterback and play the dual quarterback game. But there's definitely upside because you see where he finished. He has, a handful of top 5 finishes throughout the year.
Well, speaking of upside, here, skill position hitting us with that super chat. We appreciate you, brother. Welcome in, and thank you so much. And we're going to hit you with our
woo. Let's go.
Almost got another one. Skill position.
499er. Okay.
Do you like robust RB moving forward in redraft with the rise of mid to late round wide receivers and 2 or 3 promising young rookie wide receivers coming in the class 2022 to 2024? Obviously, this will be an evolving topic as we get into the offseason. But I think initially what we're seeing now is like the first round was decimated with injuries. And so I don't think we're going to, especially in a PPR format, I don't think we're going to mind going with a Cooper Kupp or, if things stay the same with Devontae Adams, these situations where we go a little bit wide receiver early and then try to hit on the rounds outside of the dead zone on your running back and see guys rise up through there. But again, we're going to have to see how the chips fall this offseason because, Austin, you talked about this for a couple weeks now. Jonathan Taylor is probably your number 1 overall pick, but is he a legitimate number 1 overall pick when we're looking at some of these guys like a Todd Gurley or a, CMC in their heyday?
He absolutely could be. He could be, but you've got you mentioned Chris McCaffrey. He's like in free fall mode right now, but he could be a really, really great pickup. Derrick Henry, if he's back and he's healthy, is right up there. Dalvin Cook, same kind of thing, but there's not a hardcore guaranteed number 1 right now. As far as I see it, there are good wide receivers that are up and coming that I think are going to maintain their consistent performances. For me on this one, it's obviously you play the draft as it comes to you. but I still personally do like robust running backs moving forward because I love that he brought in this point of rookie wide receivers. I think Mike Evans, don't quote me on this one, but I think that he was the 6th rookie wide receiver to have 1,000-yard season, meaning there was only 5 other rookie wide receivers to have 1,000-yard season behind Mike Evans. Mike Evans is still in his 20s. Like, this is still that's not a long time ago. But now we've had like a receiver break 1,000 yards their rookie season, like ever since then. And people, maybe they don't break 1,000, but they get like 900 yards. They get close. And so there is a rookie wide receiver, maybe 2 or 3, who's actually a legitimate option for you to. Jamar Chase, obviously, elite or borderline this year. And then Devonta Smith was really playable. Jalen Waddle was really playable. I think we see more of those coming in, and those guys aren't going to be drafted in redraft leagues in rounds 2, 3, 4, or 5. So you can still get that action a little bit further down. Running backs are still so hard to pick up. I love trying to get your dice rolls later on, but I feel better about mid-round wide receivers than I do mid-round running backs. So I'm still going running back robust. Good question, skill positions.
Johnny, you agree with that pretty much as well?
Yeah, honestly, I would go with whatever makes you feel the most comfortable with, playing whatever style you like to play with the most. I do like to grab more robust RBs because I feel a lot more confident in grabbing waiver wire wide receivers on a week-to-week basis versus trying to scramble to get a running back. However, like, it's possible. So what we like to say, or what I like to tell people, is go with whatever you feel the most comfortable with, because the reality is you could look at your roster at the end of the draft, know that a bunch of those guys are going to be dropped by other teams. So you just have to either wait it out. If you like another guy, you can make a trade, or just know exactly what you have to go after in the waiver wire process. So if you're like, hey, I do like my wide receivers early, that I feel better about that, then it's like, okay, just know that when you're looking for waiver wires, that, hey, you're going to have to hit the running backs hard and take a little bit of a gamble on some of these handcuffs and things like that. So that way you can better position yourself. But personally am with Austin, though. I like
I love it. I love it. And I love that Skill Positions hit us with a subscribe here.
Yeah.
To have you in Whisper Nation. And so appreciate you with that. And you'll get more of that content as you keep subscribing to the YouTube channel and hit us up over there. One last point on the Eagles before we move on to the Cowboys here. I just want to say this was a true running back committee. So it'll be interesting to see what they talk about, what they do in the draft, what they do in free agency with the running backs, because Eagles, they were top 6 in rushing yards per game. They had no running back inside the top 40 at the position for fantasy football. So again, if Miles Sanders can get healthy and be the guy, I think that's going to be really profitable for fantasy, just based on what we've seen out of Sirianni's offense. And then we need to take note on if they bring anybody in outside as well. Going to move on to the Dallas Cowboys. It's a little bit of a quicker segment, I think, just in fact that we pretty much know what this offense is, but what the Cowboys did was retain Dan Quinn. You heard Jerry Jones talk about this, their defensive coordinator, and the reason they did that, I think, is so that if they end up firing McCarthy in middle season next year, they have somebody to move on to. But I think the bigger storyline here, Johnny, is probably the running back room. We have Zeke under contract still. He had the injury going on last year that he said. We have Pollard presumed being the better back. We just look at the metrics. What do you see shaking out of this running back room, or do you think more of the same going into next year, both running backs still under contract?
I do think that they might lean a little bit more on Pollard, give him a little bit more action, just because it will be his last year. I thought it was this past year, but we looked it up, and it's actually this next season will be the last year for Tony Pollard. So there are a lot of people that like Tony Pollard from other teams. So Dallas might want to see, hey, what else do we have from him? Also save a little bit of Zeke's legs. Obviously, that was a big part of the problem with the Cowboys towards the end of last year, as they started not to, rely on the run as much. We already know how Mike McCarthy is with, taking those precautions as far as limiting guys in snaps. So that will be the interesting thing. And then obviously, do they bring back Michael Gallup? What happens to Amari Cooper? Do they retain both of those guys? One of those guys? Do they go out and, there's a handful of free agents that they could potentially bring in? Who knows on that aspect? So there's a lot of change that could potentially happen as far as wide receivers and affecting Dak. Dak will be an interesting quarterback, you guys, because he didn't play very well towards the end of last season. I mean, in the playoffs, he played phenomenally. So what is the fantasy outlook going to be? Because when you're looking back, at the first half of games, he really struggled, right? And especially because this defense was a lot better and they are retaining Dan Quinn, it could mean that Dak could end up falling to that QB, 9 to 12 range, and then he could potentially be a value.
So that's an interesting point here, and I'll pitch it to you kind of in this way, Austin. If we think it's that Dak is because of the defense, or actually this dude broke his freaking ankle last year, and we've seen a weird long curve for injuries right before. So maybe we were seeing some of that in live action, where it was a slump in the middle of the year, or beginning middle of the year, and then he came back on strong. What do you think you're buying more into, I guess, in Dak coming back stronger, or in this defense scaring you off of maybe taking him as a top tier QB?
Here's his last 3 weeks of the regular season's fantasy points and 6-point passing touchdown leagues: 41.8 points, 29 points, 39.3 points in his last 3 weeks. He had a combined 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah, the last 3 weeks he finished 2-4-1, but the 3 weeks leading up to the playoffs, 22, 24, 21, and there was a 28 that was Sam 4 that had there. So
it's really in his override.
That's my take on this one. I feel you, doggy. I'm going ahead now, taking a look at the other sides of what Dak Prescott was able to do. He finished as the overall quarterback number 8, where he's at right now. And he showed us that ceiling still exists. And I think that that's where we start looking at Dak Prescott. He's got a bit of a Russell Wilson going to him right now for me, where he can get you 40 points at any point in the game. But because this defense is better, and maybe we have some question marks to the offensive weapons in Dallas, we're going to see some games where he has 12 points week 14 against Washington, 12.5 points the next week against the Giants, as Johnny's pointing out. And then the next week has a 40 burger. So I think that that's probably what we can count on seeing with Dak Prescott. He's going to still be able to get you elite numbers, just not every single game like we saw 2 years ago when their defense was a lot worse.
Yeah, that leads me to just say that what I want to see out of the Cowboys is more consistency. I don't know how we're going to get that, but that's what I want to see across the board. I want it out of Dak. I want it out of Zeke. I want it out of the wide receivers. I want it out of CeeDee Lamb's targets. I just feel like this guy is a guy, you look at in the playoff game against the 49ers. I mean, Troy Aikman was all over that, saying, why is CeeDee Lamb not getting a target till the fourth quarter, third quarter, whatever it was. It's like, that's where we're at with Dallas. There's no more excuses anymore. You guys have all the talent in the world. Go out there and get whatever you need to do to get the juice flowing and get us back to, a top tier offense here every single week. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on to another team that has the weapons, but will be lacking the quarterback because Big Ben has retired. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a huge hole at quarterback now. And so, Austin, a lot of the industry calling for Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, somebody to come in here. We've heard the Steelers basically say, we're fine with who we have here in the building. We'll see when the draft comes too. What do you need to see out of the Steelers here to get you to the next level here for fantasy, to get you excited for fantasy?
Well, I think anybody replacing Big Ben right now would probably be an upgrade for the weapons in Pittsburgh from this last year. Like, he did okay. Deontay was his dude, but Big Ben did not look like the Big Ben of old. And I think I get a little bit of those like Peyton Manning vibes his last year there over in Denver, right? Where he was like technically the guy, but you're saying like, should Paxton Lynch actually be the quarterback right now? Maybe should Mason Rudolph, would he have done better for them? I'm not saying he would have. I'm just saying it's a fair question given what we saw from Big Ben. So I'm actually excited about coming in because I trust Mike Tomlin. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL over he's dealt with different eras and he's still a stud. Like, he never misses the playoffs. He's awesome. So I trust Mike Tomlin and what he would bring in. And I think that will be an elevation over Big Ben, who got a little bit of a sweetheart year because it's Big Ben. So I think anybody coming in now will be appropriate for the job, won't be brought in because of tradition. And I think that's an uptick. I would love to see it be Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. I think that then does crazy stuff for Deontay and Claypool. Freiermuth maybe even too, but I don't even care. Anywhere you had ranked any of these weapons last year, give them an uptick, and I don't even care who the quarterback is.
I like Jimmy G. Going there. I think that could be an interesting fit. I think that's more realistic. Like, I would love Russell Wilson. Don't get me wrong. Like that's who you want over Jimmy G for sure. Or a Rodgers would be that. But you go get a Jimmy G, I think you're going to be looking at a better situation as well. And you've seen him sustain weapons when he's healthy as well and get them going as well. I mean, I just think Najee Harris's ceiling, Johnny, if he gets a quarterback that's comparable, they can get more. Like this guy, like was already really good. How much better can he be drafted in the top 3? If he's got a quarterback that's comparable or competent here.
I think so. I'm really intrigued to see what they do on that offensive line, because now you're saying, hey, did he get a lot of that because Ben was his quarterback and had a lot of dump offs? I mean, we saw one game where he had literally 19 receptions, and it's like, if he has a more competent running a quarterback, does he get all those receptions? I think he still is going to be a top 5, top 7 running back for me next year. I do still think that, because of how that offense works. We just know that Mike Tomlin produces RB1s, and he gives his RB1s a lot of volume in that sense. But I'll tell you Najee might be the most safe piece on this entire roster as far as what you could project for next season. But I'll tell you who we really hope does not end up going to Pittsburgh. Probably the one quarterback that I would actually be very bummed, and that would be Teddy Bridgewater. Let's just pray that Teddy Bridgewater does not go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, because
is Teddy Bridgewater that much worse than Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, he says.
Yeah. I know you don't like Jimmy G, but Jimmy G Jimmy G makes mistakes, but
I don't
Jimmy
know why
G
I would
elevates players for sure.
He does?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. We'll have to look at that. Well, that'll be an interesting offseason topic to get into, though, too, for sure. I want to see which team takes him, and the market price for Jimmy G will dictate a lot, too.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on to the Cardinals, who are the next loser on this list. I hate calling them all losers. Who's the next team that lost in the playoffs on this list? The Cliff and Kyler situation here is that back-to-back years where we've started really hot for the Cardinals, and back-to-back years where they've kind of tailed off at the end here. We saw DeAndre Hopkins get injured. We've seen big name guys, in this team, but we've also seen like afterthoughts come through. Like James Conner had a huge monster year. We were kind of writing him off in the offseason here. So, Johnny, when you look at the Cardinals, what do you need to see? What's going to get your boys over the hump here? And for fantasy wise, what do you really want to see?
I think it's solely on like what you said at first, getting DeAndre Hopkins back and healthy for a full season. You saw that the Cardinals were undefeated with Hopkins on the field, finishing games. And then when he wasn't, the Cardinals were 2-5. Or 2-6, including the playoffs. So the Hopkins, it brings a lot of dynamics to this offense. They obviously, not only because he is a dominant wide receiver, but also because he requires a lot of attention, which allows the Cardinals to do other things that they want on offense. Lets Kyler be a lot more like Kyler. Also, Kyler did suffer an injury down the stretch, so he's done that back-to-back years. So that's something to also look out for moving forward, and something to keep in mind potentially if you draft Kyler this next season, is that he's had back-to-back years where he's declined in December. Now, we'll see what they do as far as running backs, but I do know that I want the running back, whoever they do sign, whether it's, James Conner. I still think Edmonds, I believe he will be resigned. I would still be interested in him, because Cliff Kingsbury in this offense, they do use the running back so much that it becomes a value because they are a top 5 ranked run offense each and every single year since Cliff has taken over. So that is something to take note of.
Really quickly, jumping back to the Steelers real quick, Tim Murphy asking if Haskins has a shot at the Steelers job. Do it 420 saying Haskins will be a career backup in his opinion. I think that's kind of probably on par. We didn't see a lot out of Haskins, enough to get Mason Rudolph out of the backup job. So we saw Rudolph. We didn't see Haskins. So for me, if you're not beating out that guy, like I don't know what's going on. I trust Tomlin and his evaluation of his players. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah. Austin, going back though to the Cardinals and what Johnny was saying here, I mean, what are you going to need to see out of this team? And obviously there's a lot of uncertainty. As Johnny pointed out, the running back room we need to figure out, and that's going to be a big focal point of the offense. But DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a big question mark coming into next year, because not only did he get hurt, but also we were talking about selling high on DeAndre Hopkins before he got hurt because he was living on touchdowns. He didn't have that target volume we saw. What are you looking at with the Cardinals here as the most important pieces fantasy-wise?
I think that they need to have an elite option for Kyler Murray's sake. And I'm not sure if that elite option would end up being elite on their own fantasy-wise. Like, I think DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and I think he'll be good fantasy-wise, like a back-end wide receiver 1. But because of the role on the team, he's not going to get that Devontae Adams love. That's not what Kyler Murray is looking for. That's not what this offense is currently about. But I think that they need a receiver like a DeAndre Hopkins to keep the chains moving. And so I look at this receiver more benefiting Kyler Murray. And that's what I would like to see. I think you're going to have great receivers. And if you have an elite one in Arizona, like, they'll be good. But just there's going to be a lot of weapons, the way that this offense moves. And I think you need that, though, also for Kyler Murray's sake.
Austin, I'm going to stick with you. We're going to move on to the Tennessee Titans here. This was just a weird season for the Titans. They were the number 1 seed. We didn't believe in them. They lost their first game. So maybe we were right to not believe in them. What do we need to see out of this team? They went and invested in Julio Jones and traded for him there. They have A.J. Brown, who kind of is dealing. I mean, all of their studs deal with health issues. Derrick Henry is going to deal with this. What do you need to see out of these Titans to get you over the – get you excited?
It would some ongoing health. AJ Brown is a stud. He just needs to be healthy. Derrick Henry, same thing. We'll see about that latter one though. They might need another wide receiver too in Julio Jones. He looks like he is on that backside. He's like an AJ Green type for me, but like maybe even a little bit back, because it's like, dude, we can't keep you on the field like this. You're getting hurt too often now, and I don't have confidence in your body's ability to hold up. So like, I think he can still play, but he needs to be like, 60% of snaps type of guy, not 90% plus snaps type of guy for me. So I'd like to see him get another wide receiver. And I'd really just like him to get a real playmaker at quarterback would be what I think could take this team to a whole nother level. I think it's the one exclamation point they're really missing.
Yeah, it's we'll see if they get involved in the trade market. I know a lot of speculation here because of Aaron Rodgers buying some land in Tennessee that he would, potentially be interested in, the Titans being a suitor. Johnny, are you comfortable drafting Derrick Henry in the top 5 going into next year? Yeah, you're with it. You even with the injury concern, you're kind of just take what you get with him.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of conversation as to whether or not is this, we have that every single year. But at this point, it's like, if you do draft him, just know that, okay, I need to make sure I have the handcuffs. Because guess what? Like, if you ended up handcuffing Donta Foreman to Henry, of course, it wasn't the Henry dominance that we were seeing, because Henry was putting up like 40, a week. But like, Foreman was coming in and getting you like, a solid amount of, 15 to 20 fantasy points per week when Henry went down. So just know that if you take him, you need to save yourself in the back end of your draft by getting the handcuff or whatnot. But we saw he was so incredibly dominant when in the beginning of the season. I think he'll want to come back to try to prove that he still can do that. I don't know why his goals would change or aspirations that he had from this year, because he was on pace to do it.
Yeah, we got Ronald coming in here saying, why is everybody so worried about Henry? He's like the picture of health till he broke his foot. When you break your foot, it's not something that you typically re-injure. You're kind of with that, Austin? You're with
I think so. It's not like he's starting to
Henry here.
Yeah, he's not like he's all of a sudden getting all these hamstring issues like Christian McCaffrey did, all these emerging tissue issues. It's like, this is kind of a weird thing that came up. So no, I'm with it. I'm with P Kid joining the show. What's going on?
Buddy? How are you, bro?
What up?
Yeah.
So one thing I will add with the handcuff thing, I wanted just to throw in here.
True.
It was and Darrynton Evans is who they drafted years ago to be that guy. We talk about tissue issues. He's been out ever since he was drafted. Thanks, Dynasty team. But then it was Jeremy McNichols, and he came in, and Deontay Foreman though ended up being that guy. So yes, get the handcuff, but just keep an eye out for who that actually is.
Right, exactly.
You're gonna have to finger on the pulse there, because it changes pretty crazy. All right, we'll move on to the Green Bay Packers. Austin and I's Green Bay Packers here. A lot of stuff is going to change, or maybe not. Maybe it all stays the same. We don't know, but there's a lot of uncertainty when you look at the Packers. Austin, we've got Matt LaFleur with his best coaching start. What do you want to see? I'll just ask this from a personal situation. Do you want to see Rodgers traded, or do you want to see him stay there?
I am a Green Bay Packers fan. The man, Aaron Rodgers' signature is on that ball right behind me. Love all of the memories. Wouldn't be interested in replacing a single one. God bless. I'm ready to move on. Can we replace Aaron Rodgers? Only technically. We will not be able to do what Aaron Rodgers has done. If he wins the MVP this year, he's got a good shot of it. There'll be 4 MVPs for him. It's hard to replace that. Can we do better? Probably not. Can we do different? I'm ready to see. And I think that the way this team is built, Matt LaFleur with 2 excellent running backs, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. We talk about coming from that Kyle Shanahan tree over there in Washington. We've seen what he's been able to do with a host of different quarterbacks, but a strong run game, even if that run game is comprised of JaMychal Hasty and Jeff Wilson and all these, strange Sermon and Elijah Mitchell. And it's just been wild. And then Debo Samuel's a weapon and all this stuff. And I think that giving Matt LaFleur an opportunity to run an offense like that is an interesting situation to look at. And I'm ready to see what he would do without having a guy who, an Aaron Rodgers for you. I don't know if that's Jordan Love. I don't necessarily care. I'm just ready to see Matt LaFleur break out a different type of system. We've seen Kyle Shanahan show us that's a viable way to play the NFL today. And I'm excited to see our Packers do something like that. Get rid of Rodgers for the biggest haul we can possibly get. Maybe a young player, get a couple of first-round draft picks, maybe some defensive help. And let's go out and try to win the NFC North again.
P Kid coming over. I definitely could see this. I could see Jimmy going to Green Bay and then them winning in Lambeau.
I can see that too. I get what Austin's saying, and I kind of almost am with it. I'm getting there. When I look at it, when I try to look at it objectively, obviously the Packers are my favorite team, so that's not really easy to do. I just don't see a team that he's going to go to directly, even of all these teams like Denver, Pittsburgh, and where he's a shoe-in to get as successful as he was in Green Bay. And so for me, again, it's about, if I'm looking at the climate, Brady's now out of the NFC. And so if I'm looking at the climate and all these young quarterbacks over in the AFC, especially 2 in the division they would trade him to, I don't see a situation where I'm Aaron Rodgers and I'm going like, yeah, that's for sure going to be better than Green Bay. I should go over there. I'm for sure going to get to 13 wins and get the number 1 seed over there. So again, maybe the Titans, as P Kid's saying here, maybe you could make that case. But again, the Titans were a team that, backed into the playoffs a little bit. We didn't believe as the number 1 seed. They would for sure be a lot better with a Derrick Henry. I mean, if Rodgers could hand off to Derrick Henry 20 times a game, I'm sure he'd be really happy. But also, would he be? Like, he loves to throw. Yeah. So
no, he loves having the run game. I think he loved having Jones and Dillon come up. And
I think there are cases to be made for teams that would be better. Yes. Do I think that they're automatic as like, they're going to be ultimately better than the Packers? I don't know. And so I think that'll be a big deciding factor for him. And I honestly ultimately think he stays in Green Bay. I think the Brady move maybe have paved the way. They probably get an extension done with him and Devontae. So I
think he wants to. I hope we don't want to.
Yeah, that would be the thing. But there's no way if he wants to that we're going to trade him. If he wants to stay, we're going to extend him, right? Like that's what Green Bay's going to do. Like they're not going to.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. What did we do with Favre?
Well, Favre said he was going to retire and then came back and said, no, I'm not retiring. And then they saw enough in Rodgers to go like, oh, yeah, we have not seen enough in love to be like, oh, yeah, let's move on.
My point is this organization will move on from Hall of Fame quarterbacks, even when Hall of Fame quarterbacks say I still want to play in Green Bay. And I think we made the right call then.
Yeah, but again, the situation's different. Like Favre said he was gone and then tried to come back. That's the difference here. Sure. Rodgers is now actually doing the opposite of that and saying, I'm going to make a decision before free agency, before the franchise tag. So you guys, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm not trying to.
We also got nothing for Favre. We have a chance to get something from Rodgers.
We traded him to the Jets. We got something.
We did trade him? We did get something from him?
Yeah. We left in free agency from the Jets to the Vikings.
So it's even still like the thing with Rodgers, and where I see some of these Favre similarities is like Favre's issue was like, is he coming back? Is he not? Is he coming back? Is he not? And when Favre said, I'm gone, we said, are you sure? He said, yep. We said, are you really, really sure? Because we're going to bring Rodgers up if you're gone. He said, yep, do it. He did it. And then he came back and we said, no. Right. Rodgers keeps playing this kind of game. Maybe he's not at that I'm leaving point, but we've been saying, he says he might retire. He says he might want to play for another team. Like, so we go ahead and sign him. He's been under contract already and he still says these weird things. Like, We've learned from Brett Favre, I'd say, and then we won a Super Bowl on the next chapter. So I'd like to see that.
According to Shefty, again, we talked about Shefty on the top of the show where he's doing a little bit of different journalism these days. But according to Shefty, and what he was saying was that because of the way that they structured the contract last year to get Rodgers into camp, it made it so that it put the ball in Rodgers' court with whatever he wanted to do. That's what Shefty said.
I know that's what Shefty said, but that's not what is actual. From what I understand, what Rappaport actually said was that they said, hey, when you come back, if you want to trade, we will come to the table and listen. Like if you come back after this year and you want to trade, and that's exactly where we're at. But that is a verbal agreement. The Packers do not have to accept any trade because he's under contract. They don't have to even engage in partners they don't want to engage in because he's under contract. So that is where we're actually at. Now, it's all good faith right now. If Rodgers is like, hey, I want to come back, or I want to make a decision before the free agency, before the franchise tag, that's all within his, rights to do in good faith. But what he's also said on Pat McAfee several times is that there's been a lot of mending of the fences between him and Brian Gutekunst in the last year, and that a lot of the relationships are not maybe repaired, but a lot better than they were going into last year. And he actually even took some responsibility on some of those. Like he never asked to be involved in the draft. So there are some things at play here for sure. And he could definitely, Schefter could be right that he, feels like he's got leverage because of the MVPs for sure. But at the end of the day, he's still under contract, and they control his rights. They can jack up the price as much as they want and say no. And to Austin's point, they could decide, hey, you may want to come back, but we're going to trade you anyways. I don't think that's very likely, but that could.
If it was good faith, Travi, we're with I think where you're at. If it was like legitimate, he's like, you know what? I've searched my soul. I've done my stuff. Let's get 3 great years in here. Let's go win a Super Bowl. Great.
Yeah. That is my. And you could call it wishful thinking. You can call it bias. That is my bet on what happens here. My bet is that he goes to the offseason. He sees the climate of the NFL. He looks around him in the NFC and maybe seeing the NFC a little bit more open than the AFC actually is. And if I'm looking at it, I'm kind of maybe agreeing with him because of all these other quarterbacks. So, but again, there's Kyler and Dak and Russ. So there are great quarterbacks in the NFC too, but we'll see. None of that really answered for a fantasy perspective, but I think for me, this team's hugely over the cap right now. We're gonna have to see how they maneuver that. I think
44.
I think it'll cause. Yeah, I think they have some plans. Matt LaFleur has hinted that they have plans to keep everybody together that they need to, all the key players. So we'll see what that financial plan looks like. If they're learning from the Rams, they'll figure that out. But yeah, I like to see this backfield going into next year, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and that shakeup and where we're going to be drafting those guys. So it's going to be very interesting to watch this situation pan out with or without Aaron Rodgers. Now,
and I just got to say one thing on the love is so trash. He's thrown the ball 62 times.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow does that in a single game.
I know that this Bears fan is not coming in here telling us that our QB is trash. Like, when's the last QB you had that wasn't trash, bro? Oh, Mitch Trubisky, maybe? Yeah, that's your best one in the last 10 years or whatever? Yeah, Justin Fields.
Sexy Rexy.
Justin Fields, like love. What? It's all love, exactly. Yeah. It's all Jordan Love. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to move on to the Buccaneers here, who actually maybe have more questions than the Packers here. Where are we at with the Bucs? Either of you want to take a stab at this? Like, what do we need to see here? Does Jameis Winston return to the Bucs? What happens to the Buccaneers?
Not with Bruce Arians.
Oh,
no, Bruce Arians wants nothing to do with Jameis Winston.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's pre-Jameis Winston Buccaneers, right? Isn't that basically what it is? Right here, it's like a borderline playoff team that's got some hope, but it needs a quarterback and maybe needs a new identity.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Austin? I mean, any of those free agent quarterbacks? What if we could see a Fitzpatrick return here? Is there anything like that?
That could make some sense. Yeah, that could make some sense. If they get a Russell Wilson or somebody with some pedigree, Aaron Rodgers makes a lot of sense to get traded over there. And if they could keep a lot of those main pieces, this would be the Buccaneers basically just staying in stride, minus Gronkowski, who I think probably leaves. But hey, he might play with Rodgers if that happened. So if they do pick up a real quarterback, I think they're probably, dare I say, favorites to win the NFC. They're right there, top 3. But I would need a real difference maker quarterback to come in.
Yeah, you'd have to get somebody in there. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the guys that are potentially trade. Where like Derek Carr, would a Derek Carr get you excited over there?
I think they're playoff. I think they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. We've got all those running backs coming out of out of their 1-year deals here in this one. So, or actually, Rojo was on the rookie contract, but Fournette, Gio Bernard, they're all up. So we'll see what happens there, who they retain, who they bring back. All of them had their different moments within their tenure there. So interesting to look at. On the Bills side of the ball, that's our next team here. I want to talk about those Buffalo Bills,
got him.
who were all right, brother. They were exited out of the playoffs. I think, Austin, I want to ask you the most about Devin Singletary, because I think that's the most exciting piece we saw towards down the stretch. I mean, obviously, we know the flash and the window dressing of this team, but Devin Singletary, man, was really turning it on last year.
Devin Singletary turned it on at the end of the season. He was producing RB1 type numbers there at the end. They gave him the opportunity. He did a lot with it. We've seen this in other years. He hasn't looked great eyeball wise, but metrically, he kicks ass. I think he's probably their choice moving forward, but I'm not surprised if the Bills keep getting weird, and keep playing Zach Moss games. And despite having a good end of the season with Singletary, I don't know if they're fully in love with him over there. And I'm interested to see what they do in this offseason, whether they draft, whether they make any kinds of trades, any kinds of moves at that position. But there's a world where Devin Singletary, you can pick him up in like the 4th, 5th round, and that ends up being a value. But it's an unsexy pick.
Right. You're right. I'm interested to see what they do in the draft, what they do in free agency. They thought Zach Moss was going to be this well-rounded back for them. He never really got it going. And now Devin Singletary having one of those end of season stretches that we saw David Montgomery, not as good, but as a David Montgomery or a Jonathan Taylor last year. Or I should say,
he's just not as sexy as that.
He's not going to get you going like that. But maybe there's some value there because of that.
Sure.
If you're thinking he's unsexy, Johnny thinks he's unsexy, then maybe our league mates are thinking they're unsexy, and we're in a situation where we can go and capitalize on that. That's Gabe Davis, though. Johnny had a monster.
Love me some Gabe
playoff
Davis.
game. 4 touchdowns there. Do we like Gabe Davis going into next year?
Oh, yeah. He's going to be one of those guys that's probably going to be in that, 7, 8, 9 round range. And I'll be targeting for sure because the upside is totally worth it. Even if you miss out and it's not, he ends up being a very hit or miss wide receiver, it's still worth the gamble because it's very evident that Josh really likes to go with him not only down the field, but he's also trusting with them more and more in the red area. So, I definitely think the upside's huge for him.
Emmanuel Sanders' contract is up, so they'll probably just move on.
He's out.
Gabe Davis can kind of slide into even more target share there. Really had a big one there. Do it 420 saying, I wish the Bills would trade for Kamara. Now, that is a sexy pick that you'd be excited about. Now, there's something there, like, move on, Devin Singletary. Poor Devin Singletary, dude. You just be like, see you later, buddy. We're going with Kamara now. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Kamara, because also the Saints are hugely over the cap as well. And they just got rid of Sean Payton.
Like the second.
We'll see what happens with Kamara. That could be something interesting that shakes out there. Does somebody go and trade for him? Moving on to our final 2 teams, losers in the championship game, the Kansas City Chiefs. Austin, I want to kick it to you because you came on and you were talking about Patrick Mahomes maybe being a little bit underprepared in the second half here. He was just real shaky in that second half of this game. Are we worried about the Chiefs, or do we think they're going to be right back kind of there in the mix next year? And then fantasy-wise, what do we want to see here?
They're going to be right back in the mix, but are they going to be sharp or are they going to be dull? And a dull Kansas City team is better than most teams, but it's not enough to beat the Bills. It's not enough to beat the Bengals. And it might not be enough to beat the Chargers next year. We'll see how good these other teams that kind of are on the up are. They're still above the fold, but they need to be sharp. And that includes Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is, I'm not going to disagree if you want to say he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I got nothing negative to say on that take, but I'm taking a sharp Josh Allen over a less sharp Patrick Mahomes. He's not that much better. And I saw him maybe thinking that his blade was just a little bit more naturally and permanently sharp than I think these playoffs revealed. So underprepared, a little bit of lack of focus, maybe a little distracted. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but you can't tell Andy Reid, I got this to close the first half and then throw it behind the line of scrimmage and let the clock expire. That's a bad decision.
Hey, who am I? Okay, guys. After I throw.
What?
Dude, Pat Mahomes always does that, dude. After that play, it was just like,
I just love I love the internet's like trashing him the way he walks now. He just like walks all like weirdly off the field. He's got like the little waddle butt thing going on. Yeah. Brett Johnson, what's going on, man?
What up, Brett?
Appreciate the love.
Listener League champion, or League of Record
here on the Chiefs here that you wanted to make here.
Yeah. Real quick, Pat Mahomes. I do think that because this year people kind of caught on more that Pat Mahomes wasn't so consistent from a fantasy perspective. Obviously, again, didn't finish as the number 1 quarterback, and Josh Allen being that quarterback. I do think that potentially there is some nice fantasy draft capital that could be brewing for Pat Mahomes, where you don't actually have to spend up like you have in the last couple of years. So, a first, second, or maybe even third rounder now, because Josh Allen is taking that number 1 overall quarterback pick usually. And then you could have Pat Mahomes kind of fall down a little bit. That will be interesting to see for sure. And then also, what do they do with this running back backfield here is going to be really,
because it's like, see,
re-sign McKinnon.
Yeah, right.
I was
good, but then like even in that AFC Championship game, it changed. Like CEH looked all right too, but then it was like I have no idea what they'll do here. I think Darrell Williams is a free agent. I don't imagine they bring him back. McKinnon, I think, was on a one-year deal.
Right?
Do they go and draft someone again in a later round that's more of a thumper for them, and then it's more of this? We'll see. CEH is a situation that it's frustrating. It might be written here.
Bet they really wish they would have gotten Jonathan Taylor now.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Another time of Patrick Mahomes not being his sharpest version.
Right. Yeah. Looking more like Jackson Mahomes with that decision. There. Jeez.
Be nice.
I'm sorry. Harsh. We're going to move on to the 49ers here. This is our final team here in this offseason breakdown or pre-offseason breakdown here. Slim Reaper in the chat saying, #WhisperNation strong. Appreciate you, Slim.
Yeah.
Darius, you man. Stick with us after we get through this team here. We're going to be giving away that Marcus Golden jersey right behind Johnny. So make sure if you're subscribed over to Patreon by clicking the link in the description, and you get subscribed at the $5 and $10 levels, you can get sports card giveaways every month. You could be part of jersey giveaways every month, and just bonus content, and join Whisper Nation. Keep us moving on here. The 49ers are the last team eliminated from the playoffs thus far, or the latest team eliminated from the playoffs thus far. We've heard, Austin, that Jimmy Garoppolo and his agent are working with the Niners to find a trade destination.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a phenomenal Deebo Samuel. Mm-hmm. We saw Kittle have great moments, but still, have his injury moments as well. Mm-hmm. We saw Ayuk get hyped up and then come down to earth. What is, Trey Lance was this sexy pick in the offseason last year to be a breakout candidate. We've seen him run over 15 times a game when he's in there. What's your take on this offense going into next year?
I think this is the most exciting coming into the season the 49ers have had in a very long time, maybe my entire lifetime, to be honest. Because Alex Smith, when we're going back to that era, they got good when Harbaugh was over there, but they still weren't arguably exciting. This is kind of Trey Lance and Colin Kaepernick, they've got a similar silhouette, right? They just do. And I look at the way they run, the way they move. That was an exciting team that got to the Super Bowl. This 49ers team with Jimmy Garoppolo was one win away from it. I think they just need Trey Lance to be as good as they hoped. And maybe they don't even need it to exceed that. And I think they have adjusted in their expectations of his downsides too. And I think that if Trey Lance can just be competent and bring some of his strengths forward, not even all of them, and then their playmakers stay healthy. Got to have Kittle and Deebo staying healthy. But if Deebo and Kittle are staying healthy, give me what team has a better 1-2 in their weapons than a Kittle and a Deebo? It's such a fun one. It's unique. It's weird. It's not a standard wide receiver, and it's an elite tight end. And then you've got Ayuk, and then you've got Elijah Mitchell. These guys are good. These are good runners. They're pretty deep. They just need Trey Lance to be 80% of what they thought he could be, and then their playmakers to stay healthy.
Yeah, it's an interesting take because, yes, that I agree with that 100%. Deebo and Kittle staying healthy. I mean, we've seen the running backs just get absolutely murdered in this system. Do we just think that this is the system that Shanahan puts on the field that just puts these guys? I mean, if you're going to use Deebo the way you're using him, you expect him to probably get hurt, right? That's what's going to happen if you're going to use him in the backfield and run him around. So that's an interesting situation there. Johnny, do you believe in? I mean, we're going to need to see a lot more, obviously, but Trey Lance, have you seen enough to be confident in drafting Trey Lance as not only a QB1, but one of these league winners?
I mean, there's definitely that range of outcomes. I think he has that potential and that that high of a ceiling for sure, because of the offense, the fact that he does run so much when he has the ball or when he is quarterbacking. That's huge part of fantasy football as far as, the cheat code and whatnot. Now, would I be very confident if he was the only quarterback I had on my roster next year when I'm drafting and going in? I wouldn't feel that confident in that. There would definitely be some high downside for me. But what I do think is interesting in all of this is I think it puts a lot of flux with all of these skill positions. You're talking about Debo, right? I do like Debo. I do think that he will be, I think he's a great wide receiver, but you're talking about a wide receiver that did what I believe he was either the first, if I'm not mistaken, or one of two wide receivers that have ever rushed for 10 rushing touchdowns in a season. So Travis talked about how banged up their running back group was. Let's say they have a full season with Trey Sermon back there. Not that they're a huge fan of him, but they have Trey Sermon healthy. They've got Elijah Mitchell healthy. They've got, whatever running back that they draft this year coming in. What does that do to the rushing share? Now, will Debo's rushing share go to 0? I don't think so, just because he was so effective. But do they go, instead of rushing him, 10 rushing attempts per game, 8 rushing attempts per game? Does that go all the way down to maybe 4? Now, that's a huge gap now. And then you're talking about 10 rushing touchdowns. That's 60 fantasy points off of those just from that. That's a lot of fantasy points to try to make up. So I do think that Debo might be one of those wide receivers that I probably won't have a lot of next year, because he's probably going to be a little bit overdrafted to me for, you're paying for his past history of what he did last year versus what he could do this next year. And it's just really high to me. And so that's why I don't see the rushing side of it getting back to what he saw last year. So that's the big thing for me is Debo, Ayuk. Where did those guys go? Obviously, Kittle, I think, could be somewhat of a value because he didn't have the best year, but he did have some flash games. And like we always said, tight ends are generally a young quarterback's best friend. So I do think there could be a bounce back year for Kittle.
Yeah, the Niners, as you talked more about it, Austin said the most exciting, and I was like, well, I don't know. And then as Austin and Johnny started talking about it, I was like, yeah, because we talked about all that, and as Do It 420 said, Elijah Mitchell, man, we didn't even bring up Elijah Mitchell barely, and that guy killed it in a lot of respects as far as volume and what he was able to do as a very firm RB2. Imagine as the lead back if he was able to stay healthy. I know that's a lot of ifs in this offense, but yeah, very exciting stuff for the 49ers. Very exciting stuff left for us to end this show, and that is this jersey giveaway that we're going to do for our Patreon subscribers. Boom. Marcus Golden jersey behind Johnny right there. We're going to get into that as well as the sports card giveaway. Jeez.
Yeah, we're going to do that one.
That's how much stuff we're giving away that I can't even say it all, Austin.
It's like it's so much in your mouth, like trying to get it out.
All right.
So this is our $10 Patreon subscribers, right?
Right,
and anybody
he switched it up on. This is the 5 for the sports cards.
Okay.
5 for the sports cards. That's what we'll do first, and then we will do the jersey.
Nice.
Love it.
Yes. So
and if you're watching and you're wondering, like, how do I get involved here? The link is in the description to go to Patreon. You subscribe at the $5 level. You subscribe at the $10 level. Look, the 10 is the best deal, because if you get at the $10 level, you get into this $5 drawing for the sports card, but also into the jersey giveaway, which we will be doing after this. But yeah, what are we doing here, Johnny? Let us know.
Okay, so we're going to spin the wheel. I just want to give a shout out. These are all of our January Patreon subscribers. So thank you all so much. Real quick, Doug, Chris, Troy, Tanner, Freak Stomper, Eagle Fang, Gus Ramos, Carl Smith, Brett, Scott, Jon Durst, Jacob, Bley, and Matt Deshaun. So appreciate you all so much. Woo! And okay, so we'll spin this. There are 5 envelopes. We'll do a shout out. We'll see which one to get drawn, and then we will give away the jersey after that, and then we'll check to see what's in the sports cards. Since we have the wheel up.
I love it.
All right. So here we go for the sports card pack giveaway. Spin that wheel. You won't.
I won't, but you will.
You won't. You know what to do. You know what to do. All right, and the winner is Oh, it's Chris. Chris is
Dude,
gonna
Chris
win
is
back to
raking
back,
it, dude.
back to back months for Chris.
Yeah. Let's go, Chris.
Hey, there you go, Chris. All right,
Nice,
Chris
nice.
is in the all right. So you guys in the comments, let me know. Whisper Nation in the comments you're watching. Give me a number between 1 and 5, and then whichever one that we liked, and we'll see. We'll pick it out of this envelope. So in the comments, let me know. All right. Now we're gonna do the jersey giveaway. All right, this is for the auto jersey giveaway.
I'm gonna take that last name off. You got him in there.
What?
We got 2 Bleys.
Oh, that's he is he does a double Patreon.
Oh, hell yeah.
He
You
does
get
a
2
double
intros.
Patreon. Yeah, he gets 2 entries. So
There we go.
Yeah.
You got
Bly.
people doubling up on 3, so that's our pick here.
all right, double. All right, so we got 3, 1, 2, 3. Here it is. So we'll
get into that.
pick that in just a second. All right, this is for the jersey, for the golden jersey here, and the winner is.
I've got
Oh,
golden
hey,
ticket.
spin that wheel.
You won't, dude. You won't do it.
You won't. And the winner is for the January jersey giveaway.
January
Marcus
jersey
Golden,
giveaway.
dude, coming to you.
Oh,
Jacob Bley. Matt Deshaun.
Matt Deshaun.
Congratulations.
Congrats, brother.
I do
All
know
right,
that
I
he
love
is
the clapping.
I know he is a Cardinals fan, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, there you go. So, all right, now we got to get to. I'm going to show you these cards that.
Congratulations, Matt Deshaun. That's awesome.
Congratulations, Matt Deshaun. Congratulations, Chris Molina. And if you guys want in on this and you're not with us over on Patreon, hit that link in the description and subscribe at the $5 or $10 level.
Oh, dude.
Next month's jersey giveaway is going to be sweet.
It is. Ooh, yeah, we can almost.
We're going to announce that Friday, or are we going to announce that today?
We can do it today. You want to do it right now? You won't. Let's reveal these cards.
Let's do Friday. Let's do Friday.
All right, Friday. Today's Friday.
Yeah, Super Bowl.
Or Monday. Or no, Friday.
Next Friday.
Next Friday we'll announce it. Next Friday we'll announce it.
Stick with us.
All right. So, these are some good ones. Chris. All right, you ready for this?
Yeah.
First up here for Chris's pack, got a DJ Moore, the rookies.
Ooh, nice.
Rookie card.
Like DJ, give him some more.
My guy here, even though Big Travie tries to steal him, David Montgomery rookie card. It's pretty cool. David Monty rookie.
That's good.
Demont. Oh, guy that we were just talking about. Debo Samuel rookie.
Wow. Damn, this is a great pack.
No, he landed it. And then, you guys won't like this one, but I like this one.
Baker? It's got to be
Baker Mayfield rookie card.
Why do you have so many? Oh, I know why you have so many.
Oh, I know why. Yeah, because he's a good quarterback. That's why.
Oh,
so there you go. You got a Baker Mayfield rookie card. You got a Debo Samuel rookie card.
That's nice.
You got a Monty. This pack was just filled with rookie
fire.
Cards. I don't know what I was thinking when I was putting that together. No, I'm just kidding. And then DJ Moore. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, and you guys can win these packs too, man. They're all over the place. Just get over to patreon.com/fantasy whispers, or that link is in the description, and join Patreon Nation over there today. Boys, we did it. We got through this live show. We gave away a jersey. We gave away a sports card. We talked about all those playoff losers. We talked Tom Brady. We talked Brian Flores. We had beautiful people in the chat. Austin, why don't you let us know who we saw Whisper Nation?
Oh, man,
in the
it was
chat
so
over there.
good. It was so cool to kick it with you. Do it for 20. Ronald Kala, Slim Reaper, Brett Johnson jumping in, P Kid stopping by. That was awesome. Skill positions, man. New sub. Love that.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Oh, that was super cool. Hit us with a super chat as well. We had Scott coming through. We had Rob Navarro coming through. We had Tim Murphy, man. It was really cool to spend this Friday afternoon with you guys. Thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely. John, you got any last words for Whisper Nation?
No, just hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll be packing. So also, I do have actually, I want to give a shout out to my boys here, holding it down while I was away. I visited family. I got some big news that I can announce that I am officially becoming a girl dad. I will be a father. So excited for that. Yeah. So appreciate my boys here for holding down the fort and continuing to put out content here for the Fantasy Whispers as I took some time to go spread some news and and enjoy that a little bit. So appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man, and appreciate all of Whisper Nation. For Johnny Game Time Hicks, soon to be dad.
Yeah,
for
appreciate
Austin Steer, rocking it by the fire over there. I am Big Travie, and we're the Fantasy Whisperers. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace. We'll get to find that.
Right here.
Look at you go. You made it to the end of another one of our videos. Hey, if you still have some questions, I totally understand. Or you just want to join an awesome fantasy football community, head on over to our Discord chat. Link is in the description below. And if you're still not sold on us, check out one of these videos.